Tonight, 8 weeks until America votes and a chance to judge the candidates side by side. It began with a handshake and descended into hostility with an extraordinary claim about Haitian migrants in Ohio.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
So did either candidate do enough to convince wavering voters? We traveled to rural Pennsylvania to find out.
He's a lunatic. And you have to either accept him as that and let him run the country, that he's a good businessman, and I believe he can run the country better than the Democrats can.
This evening, I'll assess what worked and what didn't during the primetime debate and get an update from the Ohio town that's now making headlines. Plus, after that endorsement from a childless cat lady, could Taylor Swift help Kamala Harris to the White House? That's all coming up on The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Good evening. I'd like to focus tonight on presidential debates. Sure, they're moments of high drama. They're lively, you get flashes of anger or annoyance, some slip-ups, maybe a little bit of policy if you're lucky. The general consensus is that Kamala Harris won last night, that she managed to rattle Donald Trump, and he was off message. But winning debates and winning elections aren't the same thing. The votes that really matter are in the key swing states, places like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. In many of those areas, admittedly, before the debate, Kamala Harris led by only a slim margin. The question is, has she managed to convince the undecided voters? Some polling models show that as few as 60,000 voters could determine who makes it to the White House. So what does that mean for the candidates? Well, that's what we'll be discussing on this evening's programme. We'll bring you the best exchanges and hear live from both parties. But let's get started with tonight's first report from our US correspondent, Mark Stone.
Oh, say, can you see?
The New York morning stood in such stark contrast to the blistering night before. On the anniversary of 9/11, respectful reflection to mark America's darkest day. A handshake between the two candidates who had clashed so brutally hours earlier. Good job, Donald Trump appears to say. Good morning to you. Thank you, the vice president replies. It is a fascinating glimpse into this presidential power play. Their first ever meeting came just 12 hours earlier.
Kamala Harris.
Harris in Trump's space to own the stage in a debate that was combative from the off.
But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me.
It prompted the first moderator fact check.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Then Harris's response on this central election issue and her core pitch to every woman in America.
And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
Harris's strategy was to get under Donald Trump's skin, and so she tried to belittle him, to poke him.
And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go.
Then he went where his advisors probably hoped he wouldn't.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
I just want to clarify, there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say.
You talk about extreme.
But remember, that is the Donald Trump the locked-in supporters love. The question is how the undecideds respond to this. The focus then shifted to the vice president. What does she really stand for?
I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling.
It was one example of a few where the vice president did not answer the question she'd been asked. Where she won on poise, she did not on policy detail. And this is what Trump, more trusted on the economy, on immigration, can exploit.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
On foreign policy, Trump latched on to the many across the country who attached the wars in Ukraine and Gaza to an inept Biden. But Harris turned it on him.
That these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace.
And then from the debate to the spin room and the surrogates doing their principal's work.
And I think she showed Donald Trump to be a rambling, confused man.
Surely you wanted to come here and say that Donald Trump had a great night.
I think he had a fine night. I think that this was a night that was absolutely necessary, and I am so happy we finally got to see these two people on a stage.
Well, remarkably, Donald Trump has now turned up here in the spin room himself.
When you come to deliver your own top spin, it suggests it wasn't quite the night you wanted.
Why did you say that people are eating dogs in Springfield, Ohio?
True, you take a look at it. No,
it's nonsense. The local authorities say it is.
You could check it out. Check with the authorities.
It was the Donald Trump everyone knows. His opponent had more at stake here and more to prove. She certainly presented a contrast. But how many will it move? Mark Stone, Sky News in Philadelphia.
Well, we'll be unpicking a lot of that debate this evening on the programme, but there were quite a few accusations made by Donald Trump last night that were fact-checked by the debate moderators. You heard a bit of one particular exchange in Mark's report, the idea that immigrants were eating people's cats and dogs. That obviously has gone viral. Let's just have a listen to that full moment.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
television. But the people on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
So, what did voters make of that claim and the performance of both candidates? James Matthews travelled to the farming community of Bucks County to find out.
In Doylestown, Bucks County, they call this the scenic stroll.
All right, I'm getting tired already. Are you?
On this morning walk, we asked them to walk through the night before. Who thought the winner was Donald Trump? Who thought the winner was Kamala Harris?
I'm still amazed that some people will support Trump after all the crazy things that we heard last night, eating pets, babies being murdered after 9 months of birth. That craziness makes me uncomfortable.
If division has been a bad thing, Debbie, why should Kamala Harris heal that or fix that?
I think because she won't amplify the break. She won't feed the fuel, the fire that keeps that stoked. I think she'll really take the rhetoric down.
This is the most competitive of the so-called collar counties, buttoned around Philadelphia. Bucks County is where suburbia swings. They've voted Democratic here in every election since 1992. But it's now home to more registered Republicans than Democrats. Republicans like Pat Galooly. The white male demographic underpins the Trump support base.
Too long still, Jake?
What difference does a debate make?
What did you make about Donald Trump talking about immigrants eating dogs?
He's a lunatic. And you have to either accept him as that and let him run the country, that he's a good businessman, and I believe he can run the country better than the Democrats can, but there are certain things that come along with him. So, I mean, you either have to accept that or you have to throw your vote away and vote for a Green Party or somebody else that, you know, is not going to get elected.
In American-made products.
It was her response on female reproductive rights that just slammed it home for me.
On Main Street, they discussed the debate and what meant most.
I have women in my life that have had difficult pregnancies, and I think of what their life would be like if they had a difficult pregnancy and they were in a state that would, as Vice President Harris suggested, she might have to bleed out in her car.
To a large extent, minds were made up before this debate. In U.S. politics, positions tend to be entrenched. For both Trump and Harris, this was about reaching beyond the core vote.
17 is a lot.
Whatever the conversation about debate night, that's where victory lies in November. James Matthews, Sky News, in Doylestown, Bucks County.
Don't spin this towards hate. That was the message from a father in Springfield, Ohio, even before the debate, after Donald Trump and his running mate started linking immigrants to increased disorder. Nathan Clark's son, Aiden, was killed last October after his school bus was hit by a minivan driven by Hermanio Joseph, who is from Haiti.
Speaking of morally bankrupt, politicians Bernie Moreno, Chip Roy, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump, they have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. This needs to stop now. They can vomit all the hate they want about illegal immigrants, the border crisis, and even untrue claims about fluffy pets being ravaged and eaten by community members. However, they are not allowed, nor have they ever been allowed to mention Aiden Clark from Springfield, Ohio.
Well, NBC's Yamiche Alcindor has been getting a sense of the mood in the city and sent me this update.
Well, here in Springfield, Ohio, there are deep tensions because of these baseless claims that Haitian migrants here and Haitian immigrants here are abusing and even eating animals. Now, city officials say there is no evidence of that claim, and I talked to a number of Haitian migrants who say those claims are really shocking and painful. They're worried that it will really cause a lot of people to move out of the city of Springfield. People who came here legally, people who came here because the city was advertising new manufacturing jobs and saying that it was an affordable place and a welcoming place to live. A number of Haitian migrants are now looking at this place and saying, can I really make the living that I wanted to make here? There's also the fact that a lot of Haitian people that have come here, they've come here fleeing violence and fleeing trauma from Haiti, and now they're feeling they're being traumatized again because you have these powerful leaders in former President Trump and in Senator J.D. Vance repeating these baseless claims about Haitian migrants. But I should tell you, though, that I did talk to a longtime Springfield resident, he's a native, who told me that he believes that maybe there are some claims that could be true here. He said he doesn't have any firsthand knowledge, but he says that he's seen signs maybe of stray cats missing that maybe make him feel like the Haitians are a problem here. He's also said that Haitians have strained the resources of the city, though I should say city officials say that they do want more resources here in this city. But again, there's no evidence those claims are right. And now it's just a big question of sort of how is this city going to move forward as it's now really becoming the center of this national immigration debate.
That was NBC's Yamiche Alcindor. Well, you heard that appeal from a father in Springfield. That fell on deaf ears. Donald Trump last night repeatedly insisted that the Biden administration was ruining the fabric of the country. Have a listen.
We have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. Millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals, and that's bad for our economy, too.
Donald Trump at last night's debate. Well, I'm joined now by the Republican Congressman Michael Burgess. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us here on the program. You know, tonight, since yesterday, in the last 24 hours, the focus really has been on some of these things that Donald Trump has said around immigrants eating cats and dogs, for example, and you know, the Democrats wanting to execute newborn babies. How do you think this went for Donald Trump?
Well, look, I think one of the most disappointing things for me last night was it did appear that the moderators were biased. It was 3-1 for most of the night. Not a great place for the former president to be in, to have to be challenged by, yes, the person he's debating, his opponent in the political arena, but both moderators as well. And I thought that was extremely unfortunate. I mean, CNN did show in the earlier debate between President Biden and former President Trump that it can be handled. I mean, they weren't perfect, but it can be handled with a little bit more equanimity than what we saw last night. I thought last night it really spoke poorly for the organization of ABC as a news organization. And I mean, as a kid, I mean, I grew up watching ABC. I would have held them in the highest regard. But unfortunately, after last night, no longer.
And you know, Republicans and networks like Fox News and supporters of Donald Trump have rallied around this idea that it was 3-1. But if we just take a moment.
Did you not watch the debate? It was 3-1.
I was watching the debate. I was presenting here last night live as it was happening. But you know, we mostly commented on the fact that most Americans probably wouldn't have watched the full 90 minutes, and that it would be moments that would be picked up throughout the debate that would, you know, turn into the viral moments. And, you know, Donald Trump handed those viral moments to the media, to the voters, by making those sorts of claims that were easily fact-checked, actually, even beyond the moderators of ABC, when Springfield officials came out and said there's absolutely no evidence of what he's actually saying.
Why in the world would the ABC moderator have a statement from the city manager of Springfield, Ohio? I knew nothing about that as they began the debate. Clearly, he was prepared to attack President Trump on that issue, and that's just not right. You hear
I guess that's the job of a moderator, to know the issues that you know those that are debating are going to raise, and have that kind of fact checking. That's them just doing their job, because I guess that's the sort of narrative that we've continued to hear.
To the candidates, let the candidates respond, and you know, let the fact checking happen afterwards. I mean, goodness knows Politico and ABC News do their own fact checking all the time. Here's the thing. When President Trump was pushing what most of us think is a very legitimate point, what in the hell is going on in the White House right now? We have a president who was not fit to serve as a candidate, and he's running the damn country with the world aflame as it is right now, thanks mostly to the policies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So this is an argument that the president did press last night and completely ignored. by the
But
moderator.
Congressman, can I just pick you up on those points? As you say, there are two major wars going on. You've been incredibly critical of this administration and the withdrawal from Afghanistan. These issues were raised in the debate: immigration, the reproductive rights. And Donald Trump, rather than focusing on policy or finding those as easy hits, and including the economy and focusing on inflation, for example, he tended to focus on crowd sizes and fell into the traps that Kamala Harris was laying for him. That's on Donald Trump, not on the moderators.
You're spinning it the way you want. Donald Trump landed legitimate points. He was ignored by the moderators. They weren't explored. Kamala Harris was not challenged. I mean, look, what is the big lie in this country right now? The president was competent up until June 29th, when suddenly he wasn't. But Kamala Harris has lunch with the president every Thursday. She had to be aware of the cognitive decline that has gone on for months. And why did she say nothing? Why were her public comments prior to the last debate, oh, he's in great shape, he's running circles around the rest of us? No, he's not. No, he wasn't. The man is barely capable of functioning, and we do have a world on fire, largely because of the decisions that...
And those points were points that Donald Trump could have gone on the attack when it came to Kamala Harris, but instead, I mean, she successfully was able to rattle him.
Well, look, debate's a tough thing, as anyone knows who's been interviewed, but the president pressed his points appropriately, and at the same time, every time he was ignored on those things. Why is the press so not curious about what did Kamala Harris know and when did she know it about the cognitive decline of the president of the United States? Has she entertained invoking the 25th Amendment? These are the things that really a curious press would be asking those questions and demanding answers.
Congressman, we're really grateful that you've joined us, and thank you so much for your time. Well, Kamala Harris succeeded in rattling Donald Trump with surprisingly personal attacks, including this one on his popularity. Have a listen.
I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
Well, let's bring in our James from Bucks County for more analysis. James, you've been out and about. I mean, what a night it was. You were with us all night from the spin room, giving us a sense of the mood. But you've been out and about in Bucks County today to get a sense of what people are thinking.
Yeah, hi, Yalda. I mean, people were surprised, I think, particularly about the line about eating cats and dogs. I mean, it was a surprising line for Donald Trump to come away with. Outlandish. But, I mean, this was debunked by the local authorities in Springfield, Ohio, several days ago. For Donald Trump on a presidential debate stage to roll that out as fact was farcical. And it has been roundly ridiculed. I mean, I think we've seen that reported more widely, but I've experienced it here in Doylestown, Bucks County, the swingiest county in the swing state. You saw my report earlier. I can tell you unseen footage would have revealed our encounter with a couple who were walking their dog. They saw we were a UK TV crew, and I said, well, you got a nice dog. And he says, yeah, I'm going to eat it for breakfast. Ha ha. So that's the kind of level of ridicule that Donald Trump has received on the back of last night. It has fed into a sense among Democrats, certainly, that their candidate won on the night. I was speaking to Democrat supporters, and they were using terms like relief and empowerment at the performance of Kamala Harris. It's recognized by Republicans as well. Pat Galuli, who was in my report earlier on, he said, look, you know, he's a lunatic, was his response when I asked him about the whole eating pets line. He said, but effectively, he's our lunatic. You know, he's the closest that I can get as a Republican to the politics that I want in my country. To turn to the Greens or an alternative party other than the Democrats would be simply a wasted vote. And he stressed that life had been better for him under Donald Trump. Therefore, Trump, despite despite what he says and the downside of Trump on stage and the way he performs his politics, Trump would still get his vote. And that's why Trump is still up there and could potentially be the winner of the White House. The polls, as we know, are tied.
Yeah, I mean, just to that point, James, I mean, you know, it does feel on some levels that Republican elites would want to see Donald Trump fail. You know, these people that he has humiliated for so long. But at the end of the day, they also probably want to get themselves back into the White House as well. But just give us a sense. I mean, you've been, again, you know, we saw in your report the reaction from people. Just talk to us about some of the polls that are starting to come out, because at the end of the day, you know, it's debates, you know, come and go, and the bases may not move. It's really the undecided that many are focusing on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, politics are entrenched here in the United States. People tend to be on one side or the other, and it is, you know, it's these voters in the middle, the undecideds, the moderates, the soft Republicans, or indeed the soft Democrats, who are looking for an excuse to vote the other way. Again, just being here and asking people about the hot topics from last night's debate, the economy certainly was one, but abortion, that was key. And clearly that's an issue that's had much traction in favor of Democrats. Kamala Harris has been a champion for the Democrats, running a bus tour around the country on promoting reproductive rights and so on. And it's been troublesome for Trump, whose position has been incoherent through time. So, you know, in terms of the subject matter, again, Democrats will tell you that they are confident their candidate did well. In terms of immediate response, you know, obviously in November will be the test of who won and who's won overall. There was a CNN poll just after the debate that indicated most thought Harris had won. Democrats are in a happy place compared to where they were 6 weeks ago, and that is backed up, I suppose, by how the bookies are seeing it right now. Let me talk you through some of the betting odds and how they've changed over the past few months. When Joe Biden stepped down on the 21st of July, the bookies backed Trump with a massive margin, with Kamala Harris trailing behind. Harris, well, she then began to climb, according to the bookies, overtaking Trump by mid-August, only to stagnate. Since the debate, for the first time since mid-August, Kamala Harris now leads Donald Trump in the betting odds. So that's how the bookies are seeing it right now. Yeah, one wonders how the whole business of eating cats and dogs plays in to that. I mean, certainly in the history of TV debates, and we talk a lot about the moments, don't we? You know, Jack Kennedy, Reagan saying to the viewers, do you feel better off than you did 4 years ago? Well, Donald Trump talking about eating pets, Haitian immigrants. I mean, that must rank as one of the all-time iconic greats, which he may yet come to regret.
Indeed, and over the years, haven't we heard Donald Trump, what comes to mind is drinking detergent during COVID, but the dogs and cats comments right up there. Thanks so much, James. Well, Donald Trump may claim he has the most successful rallies in the history of politics, but what about his stance on abortion? Stay with us on The World with me, Yalda Hakim. After the break, we've got lots more coming up. We'll hear what both candidates said they would do about reproductive rights.
Weeknights on Sky News.
This is your chance. Tell people. Welcome to the Politics Hub.
Our police force has apologised. If you wanted to find out about Grimsby, you come to the docks.
I'm live in Jerusalem. Are you not concerned that that could lead to all-out war?
Hello there, good evening. There are fears of an upsurge in violence. What's at stake here?
You are watching the press preview, a first look at the front pages as they arrive.
I'm Katie Spencer and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent. When you think of Glastonbury, it's mud you want and music. They're going to cross to us live in a minute.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Brad Pitt is now a prolific producer behind the scenes.
It's not a mystery to me. We always were capable of doing this.
Oh, they're wonderful children as an audience.
Who did that?
Maverick here on the red carpet. I'm so excited, Tom Cruise. This is the story of the night.
It's the little independent film that could.
We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
Nor have I ever struck any woman in my life.
There's this illusion of power.
Are you feeling well?
I remember covering the Oscars and that now infamous moment, the Will Smith slap. Nobody could quite believe that it had happened. You can tell from these crowds just how excited people are for the return of Pride.
These actors playing the lead roles were born long after the Sex Pistols broke up.
Are you pleased that you did say yes to the job?
I've never regretted it.
As a team, we've interviewed some of the biggest stars in the world. It can be incredibly surreal being swept up in their world, but we try to give you an honest sense of how these people really are.
Okay, I'll talk to you.
Don't leave me.
Yeah, okay.
There's no easy goodies. There's no easy baddies.
I've had a great time here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
The most significant day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
I want to jump in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
Welcome back to the programme. Let's turn now to reproductive rights. Last night, Kamala Harris accused Donald Trump of insulting the women of America. He took credit for overturning Roe v. Wade. Just have a listen.
Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban.
There she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Let's bring in Democratic Congressman Don Bayer. Thank you very much, Congressman, for joining us here on the programme. There were some tense moments and exchanges in last night's debate, but overall, the overwhelming majority of people believe Kamala Harris won that debate. Do you think that she stayed on message and she was able to really define herself and introduce herself to the American people?
I've been watching debates for many, many decades. I've never seen a clearer difference, a starker contrast than last night. I thought she was excellent. We'd hoped that Kamala, as a former prosecutor, a lawyer, that she'd be good in this debate, but she really exceeded expectations. And just the abortion back and forth that you just showed there, she laid out the case so clearly why we should be preserving women's reproductive rights. And Donald Trump is just lying, saying this is what everybody wanted. That's not true at all. Almost nobody wanted it except the small fringe element of his party that thinks that government should decide what a woman can do with her own body.
I spoke just a few minutes ago to a Republican congressman, and he said to me what we have heard in the last 24 hours from the Trump camp, from Republicans, from his supporters, that it felt like it was a debate, sort of three people versus one, because they're saying that the moderators were very unfair and the media are being very unfair. Just your reaction to all of that.
No, I thought the big difference between this and the last debate, the Joe Biden-Donald Trump debate, was the moderators actually fact-checked him in real time. Because he said so many untrue things. And it was nice to have the moderators say, well, for example, the whole thing about the Haitians eating dogs and cats, saying, look, there's no proof of that. We've talked to the people on the ground. Whereas before in the debate with Joe Biden, Trump got away with every lie, every fantasy they'd had out there. And by the way, they called Kamala, too, on things that when they didn't agree what she was, and they pressed her again if she refused to answer a question the first time. I thought they were very fair.
Yeah, I guess in the last debate, frankly, Joe Biden wasn't coherent. That's also the clear difference.
Kamala, obviously, she's younger. She's a lawyer. She's in a much better position. We never thought Joe Biden was going to be the greatest debater in the world, but it's sort of been so much energy back into not just the Democratic Party, but into the American people, having her out there with Tim Walz, carrying a very joyful message about where America is going and about how we're not going back to the Trump years of before.
Do you know, at the end of the day, though, it will really come down to a handful of undecided voters. Do you think that Kamala Harris was able to move the dial on that and speak to those who, may not be sure about which way to vote, may not be convinced by Kamala Harris?
Yeah, I was very encouraged by that. Right now, it's a 50-50 race or a 47-47 race. Some of the leaders in the campaign say maybe one or two votes per precinct across the country. But a lot of what's holding Kamala back so far was that people don't know who she is. When you're vice president, it isn't like people are paying much attention to what you're doing. So in the last month, we've gotten to know her much better, and people got to really see who she was last night. So I expect those poll numbers can continue slowly but surely moving in her direction.
And Congressman, do you think that, going into this debate and into this race, Kamala Harris and her team and the Democrats have tried to really sell themselves as the underdog, and also, you know, rather than what Donald Trump has tried to portray her as, the sort of continuity, sort of a continuation of the Biden administration, that she is the change candidate. He's describing himself as the change candidate. But do you think that, you know, she will continue to go into this as the underdog?
Yes, but we've never had a woman president. This is a biracial woman who no one took very seriously as vice president. So she's very much the underdog. He was president after all, and has been campaigning nonstop for now something like 10 years. But America loves an underdog. I also think that we know of Donald Trump very, very well. And most Americans don't like him. And even the ones who will vote for him because they think he represents their conservative philosophy rather than, you know, the wretched human being that he is. But I think Kamala is coming at this with so much integrity, strong family, joyful, happy warrior. I think she's bringing people to her. Donald Trump is our only president in American history who's tried to divide us, pit one American against another. And that's the opposite of what Kamala is trying to do.
Congressman, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, stay with us on The World with me, Yalda Hakim, after the break. What we learned about what both candidates would do to end the war in Ukraine. back. Tonight, we've been picking apart the US presidential debate. Both candidates sparred over how they would handle the war in Ukraine, or more importantly, Vladimir Putin. Let's have a listen back.
I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president?
If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Well, yesterday, the US Secretary of State told me that he was concerned about a shipment of ballistic missiles from Iran to Russia. This satellite image, analysed by the Sky News data and forensics team, shows a Russian-flagged cargo ship docked at a Russian port last week. A Ukrainian source told Sky News the vessel had shipped around 220 short-range ballistic missiles. Well, Mr. Blinken travelled to Kyiv today with Foreign Secretary David Lammy. That's ahead of a meeting between their bosses at the White House on Friday. Have a listen.
We're here to listen. And that's why I'm here with Tony Blinken, a US Secretary of State, a UK Foreign Secretary, travelling together. We haven't seen that for well over a decade in our system, travelling here to listen to the Ukrainians, to speak to President Zelensky, to hear and understand the strategy, because we are determined to see Ukraine win in their efforts over the coming months and over this period.
That was David Lammy there. This is The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Next up, Kamala Harris picks up a major endorser in pop star Taylor Swift, who's proudly claimed to be a childless cat lady.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
I'm David Blevins, and I'm Sky's senior Ireland correspondent. I'm based in Belfast, a city transformed by peace, but still struggling with its past. Politically, the two sides are as far apart as ever, and it's over that question of who has sovereignty in Northern Ireland, the very issue that's been the source of tension here for generations. It takes 60 minutes to cross the Irish Sea. It took the British monarchy a century. I've spent 25 years reporting the journey from conflict to peace.
The political parties of Northern Ireland have reached agreement.
We help you understand the world with us.
Today, we have reached an agreement with the Conservative Party on support for government in Parliament.
We already know what the government gets out of this deal. What exactly does the DUP get out of it? Well, £1.5 billion. Welcome to Winterfell. It's an iconic location in this globally acclaimed drama. Ophelia was the most powerful hurricane this far east in the Atlantic on record. You can't live in a place like this and not appreciate the environment.
Day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Heavy vehicle.
Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news. Now, she's probably the most famous cat lady in the world, and she made her intervention straight after last night's debate. In a post on Instagram, which has already got over 8 million likes, Taylor Swift wrote, "I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them." She signed off as childless cat lady. Let's just see exactly how the endorsement's gone down.